It was a crisp, cloudless night when Ethan sat on the rooftop of his modest apartment building, nursing a cup of coffee and staring at the cosmos. He had always been captivated by the stars. Something about their unreachable brilliance made him feel small and comforted at the same time. Tonight, however, he wasn't alone. "Do you ever wonder what's out there?" came a voice beside him. Ethan turned to see Zara, the enigmatic girl who had moved into the apartment next door a few weeks ago. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Her piercing green eyes seemed to hold galaxies within them, and her smile was warm but always tinged with a mysterious edge. "All the time," Ethan replied, gesturing toward the vast sky. "I mean, there has to be more than just us, right?" Zara's lips curled into a soft smile. "More than you can imagine." They sat in companionable silence for a while, the hum of the city below fading into the background. Ethan was acutely aware of Zara's presence, her quiet confidence and the way she seemed to belong to the night. "Do you know why I love humans?" Zara asked suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. She said it so casually, as if it was a fact rather than a question. "Why's that?" he managed to ask. Zara turned to face him fully, her gaze locking onto his. "Because you're so fragile. And yet, you dream. You hope. Even when everything seems impossible, you keep going. It's beautiful." Ethan chuckled nervously, trying to brush off the intensity of her words. "That's an interesting perspective." "It's true," Zara insisted. "You're like flames. Brief, flickering, but so alive." Ethan didn't know how to respond to that. There was something about Zara that made him feel like he was teetering on the edge of understanding something monumental, something just beyond his reach. He decided to change the subject. "What about you?" he asked. "What do you dream about?" For the first time since he'd met her, Zara seemed to hesitate. She looked away, her fingers tracing the rim of her own coffee mug. "I dream of freedom," she said finally. "Freedom?" Ethan echoed. "From what?" "From duty. From expectations. From myself." Her words hung heavy in the air. Ethan wanted to press further, to understand what she meant, but he sensed that she wasn't ready to share more. Instead, he said, "Well, whatever's holding you back, I hope you find a way to break free." Zara smiled at him, and for a moment, the weight in her eyes seemed to lift. "Thank you, Ethan." Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Zara grew closer. They spent countless nights on the rooftop, talking about everything and nothing. Zara's quirks only endeared her to Ethan more. She had an otherworldly knowledge of science and history, but she was adorably clueless about modern pop culture. She claimed she had no social media and no interest in it, which Ethan found both refreshing and baffling. One night, as they sat together under a particularly bright moon, Zara's demeanor shifted. She seemed restless, her gaze darting to the sky more often than usual. "Is everything okay?" Ethan asked. Zara hesitated before nodding. "I've been thinking about what you said. About breaking free." Ethan tilted his head. "And?" Zara stood abruptly and walked to the edge of the rooftop, her silhouette framed by the stars. "There's something I need to tell you, Ethan. Something that might change everything." Ethan's stomach churned. He had no idea what she was about to say, but the gravity in her voice made his pulse quicken. "You can tell me anything," he said. She turned to face him, and for the first time, he saw fear in her eyes. "I'm not like you," she began. "I'm not human." Ethan blinked, waiting for her to laugh and say it was a joke. But she didn't. Instead, she raised her hand, and before his eyes, her skin shimmered and transformed. For a brief moment, she was no longer the Zara he knew. Her skin was a deep, iridescent blue, her eyes glowing faintly, and her hair seemed to float as if in zero gravity. Ethan stumbled back, his breath catching in his throat. What What are you? Zara's voice was steady, but her expression was pained. I'm from a place far beyond this planet. I was sent here on a mission, but I never expected to care for someone like you. Ethan's mind raced. Part of him wanted to run, to process what he was seeing. But another part of him, the part that had come to cherish Zara, refused to leave her. Why are you telling me this now? He asked. Because my time here is running out, she said. And because I wanted you to know the truth before I go. Go. Ethan repeated, his chest tightening. You're leaving. Zara nodded, her eyes glistening. I don't have a choice. My people, they expect me to report back. Staying here longer would put you and everyone else at risk. Ethan stepped closer, his fear giving way to determination. There has to be another way. You said you dream of freedom. Isn't there a way for you to stay? Zara looked at him, her expression torn. I don't know. But if I stay, it would mean defying everything I've ever known. It would mean abandoning my people. Ethan reached for her hand, and to his relief, she didn't pull away. You're not alone anymore, he said. Whatever you decide, I'll be here for you. The following days were a whirlwind. Zara confided in Ethan about her mission and her people. She told him about their strict rules, their obsession with observing other species without interfering. And she told him about the consequences of defying those rules. Ethan's feelings for Zara only deepened as he learned more about her. He admired her courage and her vulnerability. He didn't care that she wasn't human. To him, she was Zara, the girl who had taught him to see the stars in a new light. But their time together was running out. Zara's people were growing suspicious of her prolonged stay on Earth. She knew they would come for her soon. One night, as they sat on the rooftop for what might be the last time, Zara turned to Ethan with a sad smile. Do you know why I love you, Ethan? She asked. Ethan's heart ached. Why? Because you see me, she said. Not as an alien or a stranger, but as someone worth knowing. You make me feel like I belong, even when I've never felt more out of place. Ethan took her hands in his voice trembling. And do you know why I love you? Zara's eyes searched his, her breath hitching. Tell me. Because you've shown me a world I never knew existed, he said. And because you make me want to be better, to dream bigger. You're the most incredible person I've ever met, Zara. Human or not. Tears streamed down Zara's cheeks as she leaned in, their foreheads touching. Thank you, Ethan. For everything. The sound of a distant hum broke their moment. Zara stiffened, her gaze darting to the sky. They're here, she whispered. Ethan's grip on her hands tightened. Then we'll face them together. But Zara shook her head. No. If they see you with me, they'll consider you a threat. I don't care, Ethan said fiercely. I'm not letting you go alone. Zara cupped his face, her touch both tender and firm. You have to. Please, Ethan. For me. Before he could protest, Zara kissed him. It was a kiss filled with love and sorrow, a goodbye wrapped in a promise. When she pulled away, her eyes glowed brighter than ever. I'll always remember you, she said. And then, in a flash of light, she was gone.